We have a habit of putting most things we get into the refrigerator. However, there are some items that, by putting them in the refrigerator, we both endanger our health and cause them to spoil. Which ones should we never put in the refrigerator? We want to convey the reasons to you. Just because the refrigerator is an invention of our age, it doesn't mean we can put everything we get into it. Because the moment you put some food items in the refrigerator, you are doing more harm than good. What we mean to say is that the place for some foods is not the refrigerator, but either the kitchen counter or the pantry. Now, open your refrigerator door immediately and remove these foods before it's too late. Which ones are these? Bananas. The nutritional values of bananas can be preserved outside, so they should never be put in the refrigerator. Bananas need to be kept at room temperature to ripen. If you want to store bananas to prevent them from over-ripening, you can separate them from each other. When a few brown spots appear on the banana, it will have reached its most beneficial state, so don't be afraid of this. Onion. Putting onions in the refrigerator causes them to mold and soften prematurely. They should not be stored in plastic bags. The best method is to store them in a basket covered with a cloth. However, peeled or chopped onions should be stored in the refrigerator. It is important not to put unripe, that is, not yet softened avocados in the refrigerator. To speed up the ripening process, try wrapping them in newspaper and letting them sit. Once they are ripe, if you plan to store them for a while, you can put them in the refrigerator to prevent further softening. Garlic. When you put garlic in the refrigerator, it starts to sprout. Sprouted garlic loses its aromatic texture in dishes. It can also start to mold and become like plastic. Moreover, the appearance of garlic in the refrigerator does not change much. Therefore, you cannot tell if it has spoiled until you use it. Bread. One of the mistakes most of us make. Nothing dries out bread faster than the fridge. Cold air causes the bread to harden and become chewy. If you want to store a sandwich in the fridge, that's different. Also, to keep the freshness of the newly bought bread for a long time without losing its moisture, you can immediately put it in the freezer to shock it. Coffee. Store ground coffee and beans in a cool. It is important to store in dry and dark places. This way, you can preserve their freshness and aroma for a longer time. Therefore, the refrigerator is not a suitable place for open coffee. However, if you need to store a large amount of coffee, you can pack it in airtight vacuum bags and containers, ensuring it does not see light, and store it in the refrigerator or freezer for about a month. Tomato. You know that tomatoes do not have high nutritional value. We all love tomatoes for their taste and smell. However, nowadays, it is not easy to find real tomatoes. And when we put them in the refrigerator, it takes away all their texture and flavor. At the same time, it prevents them from ripening. We know very well, just like every country bordering the Mediterranean and the Aegean, that when olive oil is stored in the fridge, it solidifies and becomes like butter. At the same time, it is important not to store olive oil in transparent bottles, because when it is exposed to light, it becomes acidic. Peach, kiwi, apricot, plum, and mango. The ripening process of all foods that enter the refrigerator stops. Similarly, so do these fruits. These fruits, which are similar in texture, may retain their freshness in the fridge, but because the cold air breaks down cell membranes, they may lose their nutritional value. Peanut butter. Putting peanut butter in the fridge causes its aroma to solidify, and also the reduction of its aroma. Due to the cold, when its aroma decreases, the taste sense related to smell cannot function fully, and the taste diminishes. Since there are enough preservatives in peanut butter, there's no need to put it in the refrigerator at all. Pickles. Storing pickles in the refrigerator is something we are accustomed to. The very reason for the existence of pickles is to preserve vegetables outside of their season. Therefore, in terms of longevity, there is no extra benefit to putting it in the cupboard. A well-made pickle can last almost 2 to 3 years as long as it stays in the shade. Salad. To save for the next day or evening, there is no need to put salads in the refrigerator. In fact, for salads based on olive oil and vinegar, the refrigerator can cause a bad smell. Of course, to preserve the texture of mayonnaise and yogurt-based salads, putting it in the refrigerator can be preferable. Citrus fruits, such as lemon and orange. Putting juicy fruits containing citric acid in the refrigerator leads to the deterioration of their natural structure and a decrease in their benefits. Since the refrigerator halts the natural ripening process, over time these fruits lose their flavors and textures. At the same time, the green spots that form on them are also caused by the refrigerator. Cucumber. The reason why the cucumbers you take out of the fridge wilt is the cold air. Cucumber is a plant that likes room temperature. Therefore, it is sufficient to store it in a cool and dry place outside. Carrot. Its skin deteriorates and starts to wilt within a few days. Especially in humid areas, carrots spoil faster. As a vegetable that grows underground, it is important to store carrots in places that do not receive any light. Chocolate. Although it is a common habit to store chocolates in the refrigerator, most chocolates actually do not need to be refrigerated. In fact, on the contrary, the coldness of the refrigerator can spoil the texture of the chocolate. Chocolate consumed at room temperature allows you to better appreciate its aroma and taste. If the ambient temperature does not cause melting, it is better to store chocolates outside. Unless you live in very hot climates, store flour in a cupboard. However, in living areas where the temperature exceeds 30 degrees and close to the ground to prevent infestation, it may be preferable to store flour in a cupboard. What is important for flour is to keep it as airtight as possible and in a dry environment. Peppers. Most people believe that peppers should be stored in the refrigerator. However, the refrigerator causes the peppers to lose their color and wilt more quickly. Storing peppers in a cool and dry place is sufficient. Jam. Like pickles. Jam is a method discovered to preserve seasonal fruits for a long time. Therefore, there is no need to store it in the refrigerator. Natural jams can maintain their texture and flavor for a long time outside. Store-bought jams, on the other hand, retain their freshness under any condition because they contain preservatives for a while. Salad dressings. Most ready-made salad dressings do not need to be kept in the refrigerator. You can especially store those based on vinegar and oil outside. However, those based on yogurt, mayonnaise, and cream may need to be kept in the refrigerator. At this point, it is best to look at the guidance on the product. Similarly, it might be good to store your homemade natural salad dressings containing fruit juice, nut oils, and garlic in the refrigerator. Apples can stay fresh for about 2 weeks at normal room temperature. It is possible to say that the enzymes in the apple are more active at room temperature, thus preserving their nutritional value. However, if you need to store them for longer periods, you might prefer to put them in the refrigerator. Because apples naturally produce their own gases where they stand, they cause other fruits next to them to ripen faster. Pears. Since pears continue to ripen after being picked from the branch, they are often harvested and sold before they reach full ripeness. To allow the hard pears you buy to reach a better ripeness, leave them outside instead of putting them in the fridge. There is no harm in putting them in the fridge once they are sufficiently ripe. The choice of pears is entirely dependent on your taste. Ketchup and mustard. Ketchup and mustard contain acids that act as preservatives. Therefore, it is not necessary to store them in the refrigerator. Mustard in particular has a high resistance. You can store Dijon, yellow, or grainy mustard in a regular cupboard for up to 2 months. Soy sauce, fish sauce. The shelf life of soy sauce and fish sauce is longer compared to ketchup and mustard. Fish sauce can last outside for 2 to 3 years. Soy sauce can last for about 1.5 years. Fermented foods like soy sauce are less prone to spoilage. However, if you plan to store it for more than a year, it is sensible to put it in the refrigerator. Eggplant. Eggplants should be stored away from sunlight and at room temperature. This way, they can last much longer. Due to their sensitivity to heat, placing them in the refrigerator can cause damage. When stored below 10 degrees Celsius, both their taste and texture can deteriorate. Pineapple. Unlike other fruits, pineapples do not continue to ripen after being harvested. Therefore, it is best to store whole and ripe pineapples at room temperature. This way, they retain their juicy texture and flavor. Beans. As we know, dried beans are a vegetable that can be stored almost indefinitely. Canned beans do not spoil for years. Fresh beans, on the other hand, retain their vitality for about a week. If you are considering storing them for longer periods, you may prefer to put them in the refrigerator. Aged cheeses. Since cheese is a dairy product, it is generally thought that it should be stored in the refrigerator. This is true for white cheese and relatively fresh cheeses. However, if you are going to consume aged cheeses like Old Kashar, Gouda, Cheddar, and Roquefort in a short time, it is not necessary to store them in the refrigerator. Unopened yogurt. Yogurt is one of the foods that everyone puts in the refrigerator as soon as they bring it home. The thing that mostly leads to the spoilage of dairy products is the bacteria that start to grow inside them. However, since yogurt already contains bacteria, it does not carry this risk as long as it is sealed. Once opened, there is a possibility of it becoming sour. Yogurt is a durable and healthy food. It may not spoil even after the expiration date. When there is no space in the refrigerator while it is sealed, it is okay to keep it in a cool place outside for a few days. Yes, the warnings we need to pay attention to are briefly as follows. Foods that should be kept away from the refrigerator include tomatoes, potatoes, onions, and bread. Foods that spoil in the refrigerator include milk and dairy products, meat and seafood, fresh fruits and vegetables, eggs, and ready-to-eat foods. Storing foods correctly and paying attention to expiration dates helps prevent food spoilage. Thank you for watching this video.